The 2019 season of the Australian Ultimate League would not be possible without the support of our league partners. Today's match is brought to you by the following team sponsors.
So you're about to play a repeat of the finals from last year against Melbourne, in which you lost. What are you planning to do differently this time?
We need to really be able to tactically deal with the powerful player of the women. For instance, Kat Phillips is a standout player, and we have to be able to have everyone on the team aware of what she's doing and when.
So what do you think of the AUL in general? Have you coached before? And if so, why did you come back?
This is my first time coaching in the AUL. I've coached at other levels, but it's really exciting to see this new format with 3-on-3. It's fast paced. We have to think strategically in terms of the sets, and knowing you've got quite a big fan base out there is exciting too. It's great being part of such a new competition that brings a lot of excitement to Australian Ultimate.
And how'd you go about choosing the lines for your games?
With a roster of 12 and 6 on the field, there's a natural opportunity to go to 2 lines of 6 and then have a lot of cohesion and teamwork within that line. So we're generally trying to roll out half our team together on one line, half on the other. And both are fully capable of playing offense and defense, but that's our base structure we're using to really generate those connections and teamwork within those lines.
All right, well, good luck in your next game. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're going into a game which is a repeat of the finals from last year against the Sydney Suns. What are you expecting to see this year?
I'm really excited to see the matchups. I think that both teams have got very strong players, and we managed to swap some players between the 2 seasons as well. So seeing how the teams form and come together, and then match up against each other. There's probably going to be some big plays, and there's a lot of friendships between the 2 teams too, so it'll be good to see those players playing out there against each other.
Yeah. What is your main focus for this game in order to pull out a win?
I think for us, sadly we've had an injury to one of our female players, and so managing our female players as assets and making sure that everyone's got the right amount of time off the field to rest and reset and then get back on is going to be a key strategy for us. Again, I think the matchups will be change how we play and making sure that we've got the fresh legs in the females to be able to win in those matchups. Is going to be really important.
And welcome to the Australian Ultimate League. We have a rematch of the 2018 final between the Sydney Suns and the Melbourne Flames. It's going to be a big one. My name is Max Stenstrom. I'm joined in the booth by Claire Hussey, and what a game this is.
That's right, and we're here on the Sir Ron Barassi Senior Oval, the original lands of the Boonwurrung and the Wurundjeri people, traditional owners. And we're getting off with Tom Ragaki starting things for the Sydney Suns. He is the turncoat of the teams, playing with the Melbourne Flames last year and now moving over to the Suns.
I often think players in his position play with a little extra spring in the step when they take on their old teams. Seb Barr shooting early for Chris Stoddard. He can't track that one down. Stoddard, the import to this all Melbourne Flames team. He's from Newcastle, coming down from up north.
Yeah, these two teams are the two most populated teams from their local area. So Sydney Suns have got all New South Welsh people except for Tom Regacki, who's from Victoria, and like you say, the Melbourne Flames, all Melbourne apart from their one import.
Kyle Weir comes under for that pass as she finds Mark Wee. Two newbies to the AUL. First time they've pulled on the purple jerseys. And Regacki already asserting himself early in this match. He's seemingly ageless. Nothing seems to slow him down. Wee, hammer. Regacki's underneath it. Huge target to hit, and Lucky Wise does contest. But Regacki goes up strong and early to take this early chalk on the board to 1-0.
Yeah, pretty nice target there with a hammer. If you want anyone underneath it, it would be all the height of Tom Regacki, 196 centimetre tall person.
He's the tallest timber in the competition this year, I believe. Very difficult to mark.
Also one of the maturest timbers at 42.
I think he's been playing Frisbee longer than anyone else in this match and in this entire competition.
Just pipping Di Warman of the Dragons by a couple of years playing time.
Wow. It's pretty impressive to see him going head to head with really the stars of tomorrow. And still absolutely matching it in every facet of the game.
So this match being the replay of the 2018 final where the Flames were victors. They also played another game in the league, and Flames also won that, I believe. So they really should be favourites, but the Sydney Suns are looking very strong. So we'll see what happens in this new set format.
They're very different rosters this year as well. It's worth noting both teams actually a fair bit of turnover. Melbourne, the late scratching of Tom Tullett and Georgia Egan-Griffiths having to sit through injury. Two massive losses for this Melbourne team.
Yeah, and Dhaliwal just throwing behind a receiver there, getting a turnover for the Flames. So the Suns have it back, and Holly Reeve just took a great grab under pressure from Rob Andrews, and she sneaked one up the line, and it's beautifully taken by Mark Wee. Apologies, by Ladamatos of the Suns. What a great diving take and really positive play from Holly Reeve, just giving it a roll, getting that disc and making a quick snap decision to make a nice throw up the line.
Yeah, as we see here on the Zone Ultimate replay, Reeve attacking this disc despite pressure from Andrews as he peeled off the stack. And then Ladamatos, no hesitation, recognises Andrews slightly out of position after that attempted poach, straight to the end zone, and Reeve delivers the pass. The Suns looking in the ascendancy early in this set, and in this three-set format, small leads such as this one can make a really decisive impact on the final outcome. It's so hard to recover, very little room for error. Lachlan Wise on the receiving end of this pull. He'll have to step up and take a bit more of the workload with Tullett out of that handless space as Andrew C. heads to the end zone. Melbourne Flames put together some nice looking offense, and just like that, Melbourne chalk themselves up a goal, and it's now 2-1. That's some clinical offense that very reminiscent of the 2018 Melbourne Flames outfit. But as we say, very different look here. Andrew C on the receiving end of that one. He was the late call up to replace Tom Tullett, who went out with a bone bruise to the heel, which he sustained just a few weeks ago.
Sounds painful.
And of course, Georgia Eaton-Griffith's torn quad, the torn right quad. She did have hopes of being ready in time for this season, but her body did not cooperate.
Got to prioritise health. Sydney Suns receiving this ball. It's overthrown, so they'll get the brick. These fields are a little short this season, so the big throws really have to put a bit of control onto those looks, pulls and the hucks. Ladamatos walking the disc up. He's got a vertical stack waiting for him, and Holly Reeve as his dump. This Melbourne Flames have gone with a match defense. It all looks like standard gender matchups. Disc is up, stuck it deep immediately. Evans underneath, doesn't read it as well as Lockie Wise, who gets it moving through Mangan. A very risky throw with Perkins coming in. And now Wise has stuck it up for Dignam. Holly Reeve underneath.
And it looked like Mark Evans coming through from behind. Just got a fingertip on it, but did enough to knock it away from Dignam and from Reeve. And he'll fire back the other way, no hesitation. Perkins in space. Mangan can't get a hand to it. And we've got a call down, I believe, on that catch from Perkins. Is the call. It looked pretty good on the first glance. We'll have a look on the Zone Ultimate replay. Evans flat and fast. Probably would have liked a little more height on that one. Disc does touch ground. What do you think, Huss?
I'd say it was down, yeah. Looked like it just hit a fraction before she got her hands to it. But I can understand why she wouldn't be clear on that. It's always hard to tell when you're making the catch yourself.
And Evans demanding the players come back to their positions, come shorter. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries this shot again. Perkins has plenty of separation off the back of the stack.
Yeah, she just needs to go deep, and but Mark had more of a straight up mark on him by Andrews. Ladamatos.
The Suns deep in their own end zone now.
Flames are doing a good job of controlling the options. It's not too much forthcoming for the Suns at the moment. Ladamatos finds Reeve on the far sideline. He returns it quickly, centering again. Evans coming in to help too. There's a good amount of patience in the stack, but Evans went deep. Ladamatos wasn't happy with something about it, so he didn't let it rip. And he's now looking for another reset. Evans, he's got, but the throw wasn't good enough, and it flies over as Wise gets his hands on it. Flames back on the attack. Andrews and Wise working it at the back. Wise throws to Phillips, who wasn't ready for it, but she knew it was up, turned around and ate that up for breakfast.
And evens the scores up at 2 apiece. Backwards and forwards. And we're already 10 minutes, or just under 10 minutes remaining of this first match. So we're halfway through the first set. Scores are level. The Suns coming out strong, going up 2-0. And then the Flames responding with 2 of their own.
Yeah, good mini comeback in these short sets.
We saw some really great defense from the Flames against the Suns there. They spent a lot of time with the disc in their own end zone, having to go sideways, not make a lot of meters. And that forced a bit of a speculative dump pass from Ladamatos, floating it up and allowing Lockie Wise to come in and get the steal. The Suns will go the other way. Wee and Rigaki joining forces behind the disc as they find Wentworth as the primary mover. Finds Dawson. The Suns collapse into a vertical stack now. And Rigaki fires deep to Dave Andrews, marked by Andrew C. And he does get a hand on it and recovers. And keeps the toes in the process. A little bit lucky there for the Sydney Suns as they come away with that one.
Yeah, good heads up to back himself up on that near catch originally. Suns just edging out in front. With about 8 minutes left to go.
And Rigacki, just what a powerful thrower he is. That's a result of 20 plus years of tossing the plastic.
Yeah, and being a primary thrower on pretty much every team he's played on, he's kind of given himself license to try every option. And now, when it comes to playing with other teammates, he can choose his options wisely. Doesn't have to let everything rip. And like I was saying, with this shorter field, he does need to exert some control to not ping these out the back.
Big arcing pull by Mark Evans. Relatively short by his standards. Fielded by Phillips. Phillips is having to play a lot of points this match to make up for the injured Georgia Egan-Griffiths and Sima Dhaliwal, who's also carrying a slight knee injury, a hyperextension that is limiting her ability to play at full pace. But a nice little hammer over the top finds Rob Andrews in the end zone.
Yeah, great throw from Trenwith. She didn't want to waste time winding up a backhand and went over the top with a lovely upside downy.
Very smooth offense from the Melbourne Flames. Very smooth offense indeed. Going through a lot of different players, moving the disc quickly, and Trenwith showing her versatility, often thought of as an elite handler defender, showing her ability with the disc in hand. And contrasting styles at this point, I'd say, Huss. Melbourne preferring, generally speaking, shorter ball, faster movement. Sydney maybe a little bit more stand and deliver in their offensive style.
Yeah, I'd say so. But this team, I think this version of the Sydney Suns, quite happy to move it around as well. As we see them having a quite busy horizontal stack here. With Rigacki at the back. Now he's pumped his big flick, and Andrews has read it really well and taken that over Stoddard. There's a question over whether he was in on that catch or travelled.
Yeah, he caught it outside the end zone, ran in, and then they're discussing whether he re-established his pivot foot in the correct position. So we have another look at it. It's a nice grab by Andrews, redeeming himself for the half missed opportunity last time. As you can see, maybe not a direct line back to the front of the end zone after catching it and running in. We'll see what they have to say. So it is a travel call. Andrews will regain possession of the disc. Dawson still open on that break side. But the defense clamps down. Have to dump back to Rigacki, who finds Mark Wee on the break side. Patience on the end zone line is rewarded. And Wee having a great game so far. A couple of stats to his name. Connecting well with Rigacki for the second time for the goal.
You'd hope for that sort of composure on the edge of the end zone. You know, in less accomplished teams, that's a key point of, you know, a risky turnover when there's a catch right near the edge of the end zone and then some sort of stoppage. It often results in a bit of miscommunication or a bit of panic, but the Suns kept their heads cool, kept it moving, and found the best option instead of trying to force it to the first available. Really well done.
It really is often the sign of a really good team, a really excellent team, when they're able to absorb pressure and resist temptation to throw the high-risk, high-reward kind of opportunity. Wait till you've got something really certain in front of you.
Evans with another looping pull. Cap Phillips gets it into play to Barr. Looks off Wise and chooses Dignam down the middle, who lays it back. And Trenwith working hard, getting it on the close sideline. recentering. Dignam with her classic announcement of her availability, very vocal, great communicator. And there was a pick call. This will go back to Andrew C. And the Flames have a nice stack at the moment, so it's a good position for them. C wants a dump, searching for Phillips, who gets free and does a quick layoff to Barr. Barr wants a dump. He goes for a nice inside forward goal dump.
Oh, shows his class. That's a nice looking throw.
It's lovely.
Lots of touch, lots of finesse. And that pretty much sums up Seb Barr as a player. Puts it on a platter out in front. And with only 2.5 minutes to play, the scores are even at 4-all.
Which means it's likely to be a sudden death end to this set, unless we have a very quick goal.
Just to recap the rules for those not super familiar with the new format. If when time cap goes, there is a 2-point or more difference, we'll have an immediate end to the match. If we are closer than that, however, the point will be played out. And then depending on where things stand at the end of that, a decision will be made. Marquis disc in hand. Sydney, a little bit of chaos downfield at first. Not a lot of clarity on who was cutting first. Rugaki shoots long, as he so often does, and he finds Marquis. That's the third time those two have connected to get on the scoreboard for Sydney. Melbourne really unable to slow them down.
Yeah, and that really was a quick goal, which means that Melbourne have to score this next point. Otherwise, the game will be over. Sorry, the set will be over.
Almost certainly.
So a bit of pressure on Flames now, if they want to have a chance at getting maximum championship points out of this whole match. I'm not sure if this is a specialist set finishing line.
Looks very similar to the previous Melbourne Flames offensive 6. Seb Barr, Lockie Wise, Kat Phillips, Mickey Dignam, Shannon Trenwith and Andrew C. Very capable offensive players.
Suns have got a very keen Evans streaming down, trying to get that mark on as soon as he can, stop the first throw. And Barr sticks it up to Wise. It's sitting a bit short. He's going to have to come back to make a bid. But Evans did a good job of holding his position and stopping Wise from being able to attack the disc. The Suns have it back and have a chance to finish this game, this set. Ladamatos working it with Reeve.
Stall count must be rising now. Ladamatos eventually finds Mark Evans, despite the bidding Andrew C.
Evans now finds Perkins. Time has gone. Danny Alexander working to get free, denied by Dignam. Mark Evans now wanting to reset again. They're being patient. They don't have piles of options coming to them, but they're just keeping the disc in the hand. Perkins has gone deep, but she's already way too deep to hit. Ladamatos is calling for his team to take their time.
Recognizing that where they stand right now, at 5-4 up and time cap gone, if they score this, game is over. Evans shoots to the end zone to find Alex Ladamatos. And that is some gamesmanship by the leadership of the Sydney Suns team, running the clock down to make sure that that's the only goal they needed to score and that this set would end at 6-4 to the Sydney Suns.
What a strong finish from the Suns.
Really impressive end to that set.
Yeah, really interesting set. Suns took the lead. Flames came back, tied it up. It looked like it was going to go to a sudden death or a sudden win, but the Suns just took control and edged out in front. Comprehensive win.
And as the players take a quick break, so will we. But don't go anywhere as we bring you more action from the second set here at the Australian Ultimate League. Welcome back to set 2 of the Sydney Suns taking on the Melbourne Flames, and it's been a close one so far. Sydney getting up in that first set. Took them a bit of time to get there. Went up early. Melbourne drew it back before Sydney finally pulled away. But Melbourne really looking like they're hitting their stride. Patches of really lovely offense and excellent defensive pressure as well.
Yeah, there's nothing too drastically wrong with the Flames' game at the moment, but the Suns just look a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more at ease out there on the battlefield.
And a very slight breeze coming through, right to left. Really not much, but just enough that some of these throwers will have to be aware of it and adjust the edge that they're putting on their bigger throws.
And Melbourne Flames will start with a pull for this set, mirroring the first set. So they'll be hoping for an early break. See if they pull out anything more interesting than the standard match that we've been seeing so far in this game.
The zone is pretty difficult to execute well with only 6 players. There's just so much field to cover.
It's true, without any wind really to speak of as well. They might do some change up of gender matches. Also poaching deep, and Perkins on the far sideline finds Evans.
And speaking of that, it looks like a bit of a fem zone coming out of the Melbourne Flames. Shannon Trenwith and Kat Phillips spending a lot of time floating in the lane.
Seem to have gone to match now. Alexander doesn't have any forthcoming options, keeps it going at the back. Evans and Ladamatos. The Flames are applying a lot of close D now, putting questions into the Suns throwers, whether they can complete these throws.
Sydney conceding a lot of ground. They are maintaining possession, showing great maturity. They've lost about 20 yards.
There's the option for Ladamatos and Danny Alexander, and Mangan just unable to read that quite right. She was right there, but Alexander had a slightly better vision on that and just waited for it to fall into her hands. Suns get their nose out in front at the start of the second set.
And that's a great defensive point from the Melbourne Flames to open this second set. Obviously not the result in terms of outcome, but in terms of process, it's exactly what they want. A lot of passes from Sydney Suns, forcing their offensive unit to do a lot of work. And Danny Alexander, eventually that release valve in the end zone. And Alexander Mardos on this zone ultimate replay throws a lovely forehand, weighted to perfection. Kat Phillips backing up, really bearing the brunt of the shortened female roster of the Melbourne Flames.
Bar finds Wise, old heads of state teammates, and Wise sticks one deep. Dignam's underneath, so is Wentworth. Neither of them get close enough. Dignam making a last-ditch effort to try and pick that up off the ground, and now Rogacki on the counter-attack. Looks for Weir. He's read it nicely and gets her arm up nice and early, taking that with no stress. And across to Rosie Dawson for another Suns goal. What a great play.
And so punishing after the turn. It was pretty nice looking Melbourne offense. A misread by Dignam in the end zone, and Sydney quite literally run to the frisbee, pick it up, and no hesitation from Tom Rogacki once he got the disc in hand. Saw Kaya Weir with a metre of space and was happy with that.
Yeah, beautiful link up, old to young. Rogacki 42 to Weir 19. The fresh-faced young player, only been playing for a couple of years, but is such a presence on the field. Really calm, level-headed, and with all the skills. You know, she doesn't have any weak points that I've seen so far.
She's a real breakout star for me this season. As you can see there, doing what maybe she's been known best for, going deep and catching nice aerial grabs. But then what really sets her apart, I think, is her ability to make that next pass. That one, you know, nothing out of the ordinary, but just executing that next shot makes such a difference to the flow of the offense, and right there, it gets them a goal.
And time is really moving on in this set. The Flames slowed down the Suns on their first goal, and we're moving into the 5th minute.
Chris Stoddard, he shoots for Phillips, marked by Alexander, but Phillips has separation, and that's a lovely throw from the lefty from Newcastle. Down this near side sideline. Melbourne Flames playing with fire and coming out with a result that they like.
Yeah, and that's released a few grins across the Flames' faces, which is good to see. Looking a bit serious before that goal came out. Get a bit of relaxation, endorphins going around the bodies. Might help them to get this D they need to keep in this set. Can't let the Suns creep away from you. It's only 20 minutes to play within each set.
This pull by Rob Andrews lands just inside the edge of the end zone. Sydney will have to play this from very deep.
Oh!
Big bit from Andrew C. Not sure if he actually touched it, but did enough. Josh DeBell dumps to Mickey Dignam. And the Flames find Hannah Mangan on the doorstep. Back to Andrews, puts it out in front, but Kaya Weir leaves her feet and pops it up. That's a heartbreaker for Kaya Weir, did everything right. And Simar Dhaliwal very happy to scoop up the scraps following a great defensive effort.
And they've tied the scores up. What a great pressure-filled point.
Two great bids, one from Andrew C to get the first turnover, and then another from Kaya Weir. We've just been singing her praises, and she shows her versatility on the defensive end of the disc. Gets her finger on it, but pops it up and allows Dhaliwal to clean up the scraps. Two quick ones from the Melbourne Flames, bringing this game back to level. 2 apiece. So far, the scoreline has mirrored that of the first set. The Suns out of the gate strong. The Flames recover. We'll see whether there's a sting in the tail of this story for the Suns. Andrews will stay on the field. Pretty similar looking outfit for the Sydney Suns at the other end. Sticking to their units of 6, just rotating on and off, alternating.
Really perfecting his pull now. He's landing that right at the back of the end zone. Suns are in danger zone here. If Melbourne can get a little touch on this, it's all over. Ladamatos.
That's 4 passes in a row, all inside their own end zone. Sydney Suns under a mountain of pressure. Again, Holly Reeve finally breaking out of the end zone to Ladamatos. And he fires the big backhand. Holly Reeve with plenty of separation on Shannon Trenworth. Not quite in the end zone. Back to Alexander, who's been relatively quiet this game. Finds the disc in hand now, about 8 meters out. Has to look to a dump. Ladamatos gets open on Rob Andrews. And Melbourne tighten up their defense once more. Reeve, marked by Mangan. Reeve goes crossfield to Mark Evans, who tap dances along the line, gets himself a goal, and Sydney 3-2 up.
And Alexander was there ready if Evans hadn't stolen that disc from in front of her face.
Indeed. I wonder who the intended receiver was for Ladamatos. I'd put my money on Alexander,
Yeah,
I think.
I'd put mine there too.
We can have a look on this zone ultimate replay.
Reeve having a great point. She was getting involved behind, went deep, and kept everything cool. Very strong defensive line, Sydney Suns. Wentworth, Dawson, Weir for the female contingent. Regaki, Wee and Andrews for the male. Now Phillips finds DeBell. We haven't seen much of him this game. Dignam back to Phillips, who looks fired up. She throws a very questionable flick. Doesn't quite execute high enough, and Wee takes that down with no effort. Wee finds Wentworth. Wentworth up the line around the mark to Dawson, who's got a very speeding Andrews going off, but doesn't have the throw for it, doesn't choose the throw for it. Goes for a high one to Regaki, who makes a massive inside break to find Wentworth. Suns are up 3-2.
And I don't think we've had the pleasure of seeing it yet this game, but it is worth noting we've got both Andrews brothers. Both Andrew brothers on the field, wearing different colours, and unfortunately they haven't gone head-to-head just yet. But in many ways, they're leading their teams athletically downfield. Both incredibly fast, incredibly athletic players. We did see David Andrews, the younger of the brothers, get on his bike head deep at that point. The throw didn't come, but in the end, Regaki with that lovely inside backhand finds Wentworth. The two veterans connecting well. I think between them, well over 40 years of playing experience.
And Rob Andrews, the older brother, was on the Sydney Suns last year. Do you think that he suits the hoops or the flame bursts more?
It's a great question. He's been very effective for this Melbourne team so far. And a nice block by Sarah Perkins gives Sydney the disc just a few metres outside the end zone. Crossfield blade from Alex Ladamatos. Straight into the arms of Ash Evans, who tumbles to the ground. but holds on. Sydney build themselves a commanding lead now as we approach 5 minutes to play. And that kind of throw, that not only is that a very technically difficult throw we see from Latamatos on the Zone Ultimate replay, but it also requires a whole lot of vision. It's not the kind of space that people typically look to attack from that spot on the field. And just because of that reason alone, it's often left relatively unguarded. And Ash Evans sneaks in and has delivered the lovely pass.
Phillips on again. Just backing up many points in this game. Josh DeBell calling the brick as Flames set up in a split structure, horizontal split stack, with all their male players behind the disc, their female players upfield. Looks like Cat Phillips is going to make the first isolation cut, and Wee comes out to try and cover that. DeBell swings first, and they eventually find Phillips, who's looking for Dhaliwal but doesn't have enough separation. Eventually looks for her on the inside, but it was just not in the right spot for Dhaliwal. It wasn't into her path.
We've seen a couple of very aggressive shots from Cat Phillips not work this game. Another one going that same direction earlier. Not her usual consistent self.
And Wentworth now seeing the size of Regaki, but doesn't have the pace to make up that ground.
In years gone past, that might have been a completion. But Regaki maybe a step slower than he once was. Those two have been connecting together in Elite Ultimate for many a year. And now, as we have under 5 minutes remaining, the Flames have a lot of work to do. Phillips, another aggressive shot. This one completes as she finds Wise. Lefty backhand. Out in front of a relatively open Andrew C, but just throws this away, really.
Yeah, he needed, I mean, it was a great option. He just needed to, you know, ramp that throw up instead of pop it from high. It just lost all air. And C didn't have a chance at that.
Flames playing a bit fast and loose in the back half of this second set.
Yeah, 5-2 down. They must be feeling like this set's out of reach now.
Regaki fires again, this time looking for Wentworth. And a similar result as the previous attempt going the other way.
Phillips has Wise trying to get open for her, but eventually finds Mangan. Again, not throwing accurately enough for Mangan, who's actually looking a little bit less mobile than I've normally seen her. I wonder if she's maybe carrying a little injury, or maybe it's a bit of fatigue. And now Weir for the Suns. Has Rosie Dawson completely open but doesn't see her. Maybe a poach in the lane stopping her. Regaki now does see Dawson. Goes with a big loopy, but Wise has read that well and taken that back for the Flames. DeBell. Big one from C. Phillips underneath, also
Kyle
Weir!
Weir! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the big time. Kyle Weir is here and ready to play.
Weir have a gun on our hands.
And speaking of Regaki, is a machine gun who just will not stop firing.
Super D from Mark Wee. But a questionable option. Oh, apologies. Not a D from Wee. It was, who got that D?
I thought you were making fun of him
No.
for what should have been a catch. We'll have a look at that again. Cat Phillips having a bit of a game to forget. Lockie Wise again going express to the end zone. Both teams now uncorking it. The fatigue setting in and the option taking really being impacted by the look of it.
It's starting to feel a little bit more like local league rather than Australian Ultimate League. I would like to see a little bit more composure from both of these teams. Fatigue is one thing, but we can all tap into the experience.
Oh, and
out
Andrew
there.
C. leaves his feet. Have a look at that. Chest height in front of Marquis. It's a good looking throw from Rosie Dawson, but C covers some ground. Swoops in. Tom Rogacki, hand block, takes it back.
Rogacki trying to assert himself here, gets the hand block and picks it up. Communicating with his team, telling them what he wants. Dawson finding him again, and now to Wentworth. We are not open enough. We now. He's got a lot of players all over the place in front of him, and Rogacki goes with the over the top to Andrews, and Wise isn't close enough this time to get a block.
And with that lead, this set is certainly in the books for Sydney, as we have 40 seconds remaining, or just over, on the clock, and a 4-point deficit. When that time cap goes, the game will be over. And it looks like the teams will instead let the clock run out without sending up another pull. And the second set is in the books. 2-0 for the Flames going down. They've had a game to forget so far. Patches of brilliance, but periods of mediocrity, I'd say, by their standards at least, as the defending champions not quite able to string it together like they were last year.
Hopefully Murdoch and Lee, the coaches of the Flames, can figure out a plan to get the Flames back up for the last set. There's still some championship points to play for them. If they win a set, they'll get a point, whereas the Sydney Suns are still hunting for 4 championship points. We'll take a quick break and see you for the last set shortly. Welcome to the third set of the Melbourne Flames Sydney Suns matchup, a repeat of the 2018 final, which is a completely different story at the moment. The Suns are dominating this match. They've taken 2 sets to Melbourne's zip at the moment, and Melbourne have a chance to redeem themselves and take the last remaining set, but Sydney looking very dominant.
I was having a chat to some of the Sydney players between the second and third sets, and what their game plan going into this third set is, or what they're feeling about it, is that Melbourne look good when they're on their plan A and when they're scoring in 3 or 4 passes. But as soon as they can get Melbourne out of that comfort zone, things start to go Sydney's way. And they said, let's, take our medicine, is the words of Tom Rigacki. Back our players, make them work, give them a few unders if you have to, but make them push beyond the 3rd, 4th, 5th pass of a possession, and that's when they'll find their rewards. The Flames starting with Andrews isolated out in space. Not a set they ran a lot in the first portions of this match. Andrews, Dignam going deep, the throw doesn't come. And Sarah Wentworth comes through the centre, plucks that one out in front of Sima Dhaliwal, and Tom Rigacki bangs it to Sarah Wentworth. Couldn't make that connection work last set, but he's clearly dialed it in now. And Sydney start this third the way they started the first two, going up 1-0.
Yep, it's looking very similar to the last couple of sets.
And that's a basic mistake by Sima Dhaliwal, not attacking the disc, giving Wentworth the opportunity to come through from behind. And Rigacki has been prolific in his hucking game this match and showing no signs of slowing down despite a couple of incompletions in the last set.
Sima Dhaliwal has represented Australia on the Blue Bottles under-24 mixed team, and she didn't play AUL this season. She's only been playing for 4 years.
It's another opportunity here for the Melbourne Flames to find that rhythm on offense. Managed to catch up with Tom Tullett between sets, and he said they've just got to have a bit of fun out there. Be aware that what they've been doing hasn't necessarily been working, so they need to try something different.
This looks nice, and Wise throws to Barr, who celebrates his catch before clamping his hands on the disc, successfully, thankfully for him.
In terms of trying something different, getting Seb Barr heading deep into the end zone is certainly not the normal, but it's effective for them there. And a pretty nice looking offensive point from Melbourne, just running it up that far side.
Yeah, and sending a few chuckles through the Flames, which, like you're saying, Tulip was talking about being needed in this camp at the moment. Both the Andrews is on the field at the moment. We haven't seen them match up yet. Doesn't look like they will this time either. As Rob gets ready to pull. Still no real sign of wind. A little bit of a drift from right to left, but nothing troubling. Yeah, pulls are important, and that was not a good pull. The Flames are going to have to defend this from the brick mark.
Oh, look, this is disappointing. Rob Andrews is marking Mark Wee, and Andrew C is on Dave Andrews. Surely we could have seen Rob mark Dave in this situation. To be honest, maybe would have made more sense in terms of their natural playing styles. Andrew C and Mark Wee, not dissimilar, liking the small space movements, very explosive and springy. Whereas the Andrews love to get out in a lane and run.
Flames are employing a bit of a poach in the lane when possible. Rigacki streaking under with his big pointing demand and goes for the huge hammer over the top to the Andrews. Younger variety in the hoops. Catches with no problem. Suns storming on. 2-0.
And it really feels like the Sydney Suns offense is built around, especially for that line at least, waiting for an opportunity for Tom Regaki to shoot to the end zone. And by no means is that bad. We haven't seen them be forced into a plan B so far. No team's been reliably, or sorry, I should say, this team hasn't reliably been able to force Regaki out of taking those options. And while they're working, Sydney Suns won't change anything.
Does it feel to you like this, the Suns' plan is becoming more and more focused through Regaki, and a lot of their big shots a lot of their offensive play is turning into Regaki choosing when to punt it deep?
It certainly does. But I think that isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's been very effective for them. And if it ain't broke, they won't fix it.
I guess my concern is just as to whether the players on the Suns will get enough of the disc to really, stay involved and maintain focus themselves and enjoyment. And the disc is up for Dignam.
It's a lovely throw from Seb Barr. Dignam, lovely cut, beautifully timed.
The Flames get one on the board. It's a very similar start to the first two sets. In fact, it's identical. The Suns go 2-0 up, and then Flames get one back. Just getting a score check.
But what is clear is that Sydney Suns in a very comfortable groove so far. Both lines operating well. And these units of 6 being kept together by Owen Shepherd and Kylie O'Brien. We haven't seen any mix-ups, any players coming across from one line to the other. Sharing the workload evenly. Another brilliant pull from Rob Andrews. Lands an inch inside the side of that end zone. That's his second of those for this match.
And it is in fact 2-2. And there we have a Regaki pump again. Phillips is there, but just misreads that. Letting Wee take the catch and find Weir very open in the end zone.
And that's a real aggressive shot from Regaki. He's clearly feeling it today. Mark Wee was 4, 5, maybe even 6 meters under Cat Phillips when that disc left his hand. But he does get the better read on it. Cat Phillips gets turned around a little. And Weir does well to keep working and provide the easy continuation.
Regaki with license to control, license to choose the options he wants, even if they're not with separation. It's paying off at the moment.
I'm not sure if that's the kind of shot that Owen Shepherd and Kylie O'Brien will be super happy with him taking. But of course, in this position, 3-2 up in the third set, chasing that 4th championship point. Things have been working out their way so far. Melbourne come out in a 3-3 horror, a different offensive look. They're looking to change things up. And the Suns in a junky look, at least early in this point. Trying to slow the pace.
I don't think that the Flames will be too unhappy with this, with Barr, Wise, and Trenwith all happy to play around with the disc, but doesn't pay off for them with Ladamatos leaping like a cheetah.
It's a superb block from Alex Ladamatos. Real reflexes and explosiveness required. Lockie Wise almost returns the favour.
Not sure how he missed that. It seemed like it was his.
Evans hammers to Ladamatos. DeBell gets a fingertip. And Alex Adamados takes the mark on the chest in the end. The Sydney Suns extend their lead to 2. He drew on his AFL football background to finish that one off.
Pretty lucky. It was a fairly speculative look, and the D was there, got the touch. Just not enough power on the touch.
That hammer, perhaps a little floatier than Evans would have liked, certainly gave DeBell an opportunity. But it was one he could not capitalise on. And I think it's now 4-2 to the Suns. Getting themselves another break there. That zone defensive look paying off for them. That 2-2-2 formation.
Now I'm hoping the Flames can get their act together and find the very available players that are out there on the field. Because the Suns aren't playing stifling D. The Flames are just choosing slightly risky options or not charging each option down as a cutter. They're looking good at the moment. Andrews moving the disc wide to Stoddard. Back and forth until they find something. They don't really have any options at the moment.
I think it's in situations like this that the Melbourne Flames are really crying out for just one more full-time handler. Obviously, Seb Barr fits that role, but around him, supporting him, are just a bunch of great downfield players who are having to fill that void, and you can see that lack of control, perhaps, to drive the offense forward. So Andrews connects with Stoddard. Barr heads to the end zone, marked by Dawson. Stoddard will air one out. It's going to be an aerial contest. And Sebastian Barr gets the better penalty position and comes down with the disc.
I think that's a grin of relief on his face. He did well to read that and hold his ground with Dawson right on his back.
Sydney have been putting Dawson on Barr a fair bit this match. And we've seen a few other cross-gender matchups earlier in this game. Something that's growing in prevalence, I think, in mixed ultimate. And you can see there, while Barr does come away with it, Dawson in his hip pocket pretty much the whole point, and probably achieving her goal of getting him out of the handler space, which is where he usually thrives. So defensively, a win for Sydney, I'd say, if you're having Stoddard throw the huck to Barr and not the other way around.
We're pushing into the last portion of this whole match. We're in the third set and going into the last 7 minutes of the last set. The points are close at 4-3. So Melbourne still have a chance to claim some championship points out of this game.
Alexander has been poached. She is 30 metres open at the back. Clearly some miscommunication among the Melbourne Flames, and they will punish it. Alexander finds Perkins.
Yeah, maybe not a poach, maybe just a mistake.
And a big one at that. The Melbourne Flames look dazed. They're not sure quite what happened there. Chuckley and Greta Murdoch, not how they drew it up.
It was as if they'd had a 7th player on the field.
And as you see in the zone ultimate replay, Daddy Alexander left all alone in a paddock and very happy to make that next pass to Sarah Perkins. And it's lapses in focus, concentration and judgment like that that have been creeping into the Flames pretty consistently on and off throughout this match. And it's the reason that they're down 2 sets and behind in the third. Dignam makes the first move out of this side stack. Phillips with a give-go movement. We are playing some great defense on her. Dhaliwal gets open underneath.
Bar not able to easily get free, marked by Rogacki. Andrews forces one behind, and it's a quick turn. Rogacki now goes with his big backhand to the far corner.
Mark Wee holds on. And the Rogacki-Wee connection continues to bear fruit for the Sydney Suns. Again and again and again, Rogacki has thrown half a dozen goals into that near side corner. And it's now 6-3 to the Suns.
Suns celebrating that goal as we move into the very end of this game. 4 minutes prox to go. It's a bit of an uphill battle for the Flames now. Don't think they've quite got enough time, even if they suddenly started playing Champagne Ultimate.
No, and at these kind of situations, you really have to roll the dice, I think. And part of the excitement of the AUL is that coaches and teams don't have a lot of familiarity with this new format. They're still sussing out what strategies, what tactics are appropriate and how to maximize their opportunities. And I think when you're down a couple late in a game, it will pay to be almost hyper-aggressive, recognizing that slow, patient Champagne Ultimate won't get the results simply because you don't have time to play it. They need to be scoring in just a handful of passes if they are to recover the required deficit in time.
Phillips pulling out one of her slicing forehands to break around the Sydney Suns. Now Trenwith comes back inside to Phillips. And Phillips throws a cheeky one through to C, who pops another cheeky over the top to Wise. Getting the Flames their 4th goal of the set. The game advisors in this set and this whole match haven't had too much to trouble themselves with.
It's a cheeky push pass from Andrew C. And the Flames haven't been able to consistently put goals in, but when they have strung it together, their offense does look nice. And with just 90 seconds remaining on the official clock, Sydney will probably look to play out that time this point. That patient offense that maybe hasn't been a signature of this particular line from the Sydney Suns. And a pick will work exactly to their favour in that cause.
We unmarked. Now taken by Dhaliwal, and Rogacki goes for the huck to Weir, who amazingly takes that grab again, just like we've seen before, and lays it off to Wentworth. Back up the line, doesn't get it back, but Wentworth goes through the middle, missing her intended target.
Missing everything, really. And doesn't reward a really brilliant catch from Kaya Weir, unfortunately for her. Set Bar fires back the other way. He knows that the Melbourne Flames need to score early. Throws to a matchup in Rob Andrews on Rosie Dawson that he thinks will work for him, and it does. The quick flip to Mickey Dignam. The Flames reduce the deficit to 1.
Is there still time for them to play out this game?
There is indeed.
Well, it's still within their reach. If they can put this one in, get a quick turn and put it in, then there'll be another point to decide the set. But if Sydney keep it cool, calm and collected like they have done for a lot of this match, then the game will be done and dusted.
The clock essentially is irrelevant at this point. Time cap has gone now, which means Flames must score this point in order to keep the match alive. The pull from Wise will be fielded by Evans. Reeve will find Ash Evans on this near side. No relation between the two Evanses on the field.
Nice pick up from Alexander, low to the ground. Ladamatos now. Just needs to be safe. The Flames hunting for a block. Casual break from Ladamatos. Finds Holly Reeve. He can't hit Ladamatos again, but finds a forward throw to Perkins, who sends one into the end zone, not really to anybody, and it's a turnover. The Flames are still in this game, still in this set.
You almost thought Ash Evans was going to have a bid at that and clean up the scraps, but it's Josh DeBell that gets there first and makes certain that that disc is landing on the grass. And the Flames sniff an opportunity. Phillips immediately heads deep, but Wise can't provide the throw. C will shoot, this time for Wise. He's got Mark Evans on his tail. They'll go chest to chest, but Mark Evans elevates early. And Lockie Wise isn't happy with the contact. Slight left knee in the back.
Wise obviously thinks that contact affected him.
It's a lovely specky, but potentially the wrong spot from Mark Evans. And we'll have a listen to what they say.
So yeah, do you feel like did you feel contact on your arm on the way up? It's like, yes, you definitely got it early. I think it's the chop before I got my arm.
I don't think that impeded you getting this. I said it back.
Yeah, right.
So the disc will go back, it's contested.
James Walker and CC Zhang, the game advisors, coming in to help aid that discussion, which was resolved nice and quickly and amicably. Although there's still a bit of chatter going on with Wise and Evans as they resile their position.
The stall count is on 3. Disc in the hands of Andrew C. Send us to Trenwith, who puts Alexander on the turf.
I think she pinned it down with her cleat and pushed her over with her arms. Unintentionally, no doubt. Back into play. Trenwith looking for an option. Finds Mangan. Two keen surfers playing frizz together. Phillips just reaches round before Reeve can get a hand to that. Slightly badly thrown, and now whips to Mangan, who catches on the edge of the zone. Can she keep cool and choose a nice safe option? In the red zone, she finds C.
Fouled by Ash Evans as he lumbers through behind. But Flames in a perfect position to convert on this one. Andrew C, quick forehand over the top. Finds Josh DeBell at the back of the end zone. And it's 6 apiece. It's neck and neck. It's Universe Point. And they're playing for all the marbles.
Set Universe Point, just to clarify. So, yeah, this set has turned around. I was feeling pretty doubtful that we were going to have anything close to a contest by the end of the set, but Flames have picked it up, and they're still playing for the 1 championship point, and the Suns trying to claim 4.
The Flames showing up when they needed to. And the Suns finally will alter their units of 6. Evans and Ladamatos and Alexander coming across to this line. And just like that, we have 6 Australian Crocs on the field for the Sydney Suns. Every single one of them a World Games player. Some of them 2 or even 3 times. It's almost unheard of. And in the case of Sarah Wentworth, playing in both 05 and in 2017, An incredible 12 years between Croc's performances, playing at a high level for so long. And miscommunication early. Ragaki did not realise that pass was coming.
Stoddard makes a great D on that as well. Great read, comes in, makes sure of it. Now Stoddard with the disc. Back to Phillips. Gets the disc moving nice and fast to set the defense on their back foot. There's a pick, just slowing things down. Phillips has got 3 upfield, 1 behind, and Barr out in the far sideline. He'll probably clear for the stack. Andrews now back to Phillips. Inside to Barr, she makes a move upfield. Barr with a reach around throw, and Dignam collecting safely. Goes for an around break, calls a foul on that.
Oh, geez, aren't these just the greatest matchups you ever could dream of? This is the kind of matchups that you go, wouldn't it be cool to see Rosie Dawson take on Mickey Dignam? Alex Latamatos go chest to chest with Seb Barr. Mark Evans and Rob Andrews. And right there, Barr beats Latamatos up line. He's a metre out. And he'll fire the inside forehand to Hannah Mangan. And the Melbourne Flames come away with the most unlikely of results.
Can't help feel that Suns took their foot off the pedal a little bit towards that second half of the last set, but cheering up the Flames, no end. It's point set, it's not match. Suns get the match win. They take away 3 championship points, and the Flames will be happy with their 1 after that fairly mediocre overall performance. Just sticking their chest out at the end.
Yeah, the first 2 sets in that match in no way reminiscent of last year's final and the tough fought match that was. But that 3rd set showed what was so exciting about the Sydney-Melbourne matchup and why so many came into this game expecting it to be a real highlight. And it certainly delivered in that final set. And it's at this point that we'll leave you. Thank you very much for joining us, but do stay tuned to the Australian Ultimate League for plenty more action.